Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Jets Radio. As you can tell, the primetime producer has been very busy with new sound for us. And if you're a fan of Christian Hackenberg or Mike Maccagnan, you may want to turn this show off because it is not going to be pretty for either one of your members there. So this is one of your hosts, Tyson Roush, jam-packed show. We have roster decisions to talk about, players that have been traded, players that could be cut, players that should be traded. All kinds of stuff, man. So this is going to be an interesting one. And we have some bets we have to talk about that somebody won, two people lost. Talk about that. So let me talk to my co-host, Long Beach Joe. What's up, man?
What's going on, Ty, man? I can't wait to get into the show. First off, I want to just send my prayers and my thoughts out to everyone in Houston, everyone in Texas that's been affected by the storm. I'm absolutely behind you guys, and I've donated to multiple charities as well, and my thoughts and prayers are with you guys. So, everyone just hold your heads and do the best you can. And so without further ado, I am the man of the people. I'm here for the people. Let me shamelessly promote our Facebook page. Everyone go on Facebook, search Long Beach Joe, like that page there as well. Go ahead and give it a listen. Message us. We'll message you right back. We love going back and forth with people, about this show. Also, leave us some feedback. Let us know what you think about what we do here on Let's Talk Jets Radio. So without further ado, Ty, let's go ahead and get into the show, man. I am fired up.
Yeah, and as always, we're on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, TuneIn.com, Google Play, Facebook. We're Let's Talk Jets. Joe, come on, man.
Oh, Let's Talk Jets. Let's Talk Jets. Let's Talk Jets.
We're pretty much everywhere. We also have our YouTube channel up and running. We're going to be, now it's the season around the corner, we're going to be putting stuff on there as well. So we pretty much got it all covered and very well said about Houston and the state of Texas. Definitely plenty of thoughts and prayers to everybody out there. Some of the video is just completely crazy to see, and it's nice to people just trying to help one another and do the best they can. So definitely our thoughts and prayers out to them. And also a huge congratulations, man, to Kevin Mawai for going into the Jets Ring of Honor. I remember when Bill Parcells, one of the first moves he made was he signed Kevin Mawai, a center from Seattle. And I'm like, what in the hell is Parcells doing? Is he out of his mind? I'm like, this is crazy. And then all of a sudden he's like, this is the anchor of my offensive line. He's going to be a leader. He's going to set the tone in the locker room. He's going to do all these things. And Joe, he's an all-time great. Kevin Mawai and Nick Mangold are two of the best centers in the history of the organization. And this honor to him is well-deserved, man. Kevin Mawai is a phenomenal player, a phenomenal leader on and off the field.
Yeah, he absolutely deserves it. I grew up, that was when I really became a fan and was just all about the Jets. That's one of the guys that I grew up watching. Dominant center, would absolutely just manhandle linemen. As one of, like you said, two of the greatest, him and Nick Mangold are two of the greatest, offensive linemen we've ever had, in this franchise, period, let alone two of the best centers we had here. So he's more than deserving of everything that he gets.
Yeah, and we're going to touch on a variety of things. And obviously the quarterback situation is going to get a lot of our time, and rightfully so. But what I want to do is, Joe, let's touch on a couple other things first, some news that happened that we can get responses, and then we can go to the quarterbacks. That's going to take a little time. The first thing for me was Dexter McDougle getting traded to Philadelphia for safety Terrence Brooks. And my first thought was, okay, McDougall's having an excellent camp. I understand he's been battling injuries. And our secondary has been kind of shaky. It's like he doesn't cost a lot. I don't know why we would keep him, especially when Buster Screen's been struggling. Even Dow Roberts hasn't been playing that great. The secondary, and then there's rumors that Marcus Williams is on the trade block. With all that being considered, I really don't understand trading Dexter McDougle.
Yeah, I don't really understand it either. As you know, and I've talked about on the show multiple weeks in a row, that he was having a solid camp, very exciting camp. I know you were excited about it as well, but I'm always wondering, when is the injury bug going to bite him? Because that's always around the corner from McDougle. But for a guy that's having a great camp, for me, if you're going to trade him, right, I don't understand why you would trade him for a safety when we have safety. Or at that point, we had safeties here before you moved Ronald Martin. We had guys here that performed that could fill that position. I don't understand why you wouldn't trade McDougle for picks if you could possibly get him in the draft, but you didn't. So that kind of leaves me with a lot of question marks as far as our future going forward. But I just don't see why you would trade him for a safety, let alone trade him, period, if he's having a solid camp and looking good, because he had a lot of snaps as well.
That was my first thought. Because this year is the rebuilding year. You're trying to get your pieces. And it's like, sometimes for a player, it kicks in the third year. Maybe he can stay healthy. He lost a lot of weight. He changed his diet. He changed his workout regimen. And he's had an excellent camp. And the thing is, keeping in mind that Darryl Roberts and Buster Skrine have not had good camps. Plus, like today, the report, the Jets are trying to shop Marcus Williams. So it's like, all right, why are you trading him, first of all? And then, like you said, then you trade him for a safety when you have the two rookies. You have Rontez Miles, who has an eye injury, but he's still hopefully will be back soon. And at that time, you had Ronald Martin. It made no sense. Like, all right, there's one with Maccagnan. And then the other thing was, Joe, like you said, why not for a draft pick? The Buffalo Bills are doing it. The Cleveland Browns are doing it. Why aren't we getting draft picks? Is he allergic to them? But fine. Then we go and trade Ronald Martin, another guy who's having a pretty good camp, because now we have a surplus at safety apparently, for a freaking long snapper. I'm like, dude, and now it's like, well, he's got ties to Ross Martin. Him and Ross Martin kicked together in Duke. They were talking about long snappers now. Like, is this the point we've gotten to, Joe? Like, does he not understand that we need offensive linemen, we need receivers, we need all these things? So we go a long snapper and a safety, 2 trades, Joe.
I thought that was just stupid. I thought to trade Ronald Martin, a guy who's playing well, who's had solid camp. And you look at some of the preseason games ever since, Middleton has went down with his injury as well. He's filled in solidly. This guy is constantly in the backfield, making tackles in the backfield. He's solid in coverage. He's getting better every single day. But trade him for a long snapper? I don't understand that. And like you spoke about earlier, there's other needs that need to be addressed. Why are you not trading him for an offensive lineman, somebody that can come in and aggressively compete with this, trash that we have here, guys that can't block? Why are you not bringing in more competition for that position? There's other positions that we need help at as well. And to not address any of those needs whatsoever with this trade and just to bring in a long snapper just makes no sense to me. I don't get this trade at all.
The only positive was the last name was Hennessy, and that's just going to inspire us to drink more when we watch this guy.
Oh my God!
I mean, there's nothing else. There's nothing else up to it. It's like you look at it, you're like, all right, Maccagnan. You're going to hear my take on Maccagnan because he is just as bad as Bowles at this point. But these 2 trades, like, all right, back end of the roster. I don't agree with the Dexter McDougal one at all. Then he's like, all right, we'll keep moving. Then they signed Ely. They got Ely off the waiver wire from the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
And this, to me, this was a good move for a variety of reasons. First of all, Lorenzo Malden's back injury is obviously quite serious because he's not playing this week. He's been out for, 3 weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the IR at this point, Joe. So bringing in Ely can do that. And it also could give this team some flexibility to possibly trade Sheldon if the right offer comes.
Well, here's the thing about this, though, is that guy's got to produce. How many teams he's been on so far. So until this guy actually does something on the field that's worth producing, I don't think that we can count on getting rid of Sheldon, so fast. I mean, we're going to get rid of Sheldon regardless, but as far as him being able to step up and fill Sheldon's shoes, I don't know if we'll be able to count on that. I like the move because it is, low risk, high reward. Like I said, this guy's been on multiple different teams where, there were just issues with him fitting within the scheme. So we'll see what he gives us here, but if he doesn't give us anything, that's fine. We can let him go and move forward. But we've got to see what we get out of him. So I like the move. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I like the move too. It made sense. That one made sense. So he's 1 for 3 right now. Yeah. And then going back to Lorenzo Malden, this is just a lost year, man. This is a year that we've talked about him the entire offseason, how it was so important for him. We're both fans of him. But listen, your best ability is availability. Dude's hurt. He's hurt, and if you can't keep a roster spot for him, so now you have Freddie Bishop coming on, Josh Martin's playing great. There's guys there. So either he goes in IR, and I know the Jets are not talking about cutting him, but dude, if he's not, I mean, what do you do with him? I mean, he's hurt. This is a back injury. Back injury is not like a toe. This is something that usually comes back.
Yeah, I think what you end up doing with him is he might start. I think they said he might be put on the IR. If he's not, I don't think you cut him. I think you keep the guy. Like you said, back injuries can linger, can be a little bit long lasting, but you still got to keep the guy and see what you have in him. I think once he recovers, you see if he does bring, does show you those flashes yet again of being that pass rusher. Can he be consistent from that spot? But you have got to allow this guy to come back. He's too valuable to the team to just cut him and let him go.
Man, this was – listen, I'm a Mullen fan, but this is disappointing. And like you said, injuries are out of his control, but you see Freddie Bishop and Josh Martin stepping up. You have Dylan Donahue. You have a lot of guys there. You got to make plays. You got to be on the field in order to contribute. This will be interesting to see how they handle that. Staying on the injury bug, Claiborne already freaking hurt with his shoulder. And if I'm the Jets, this guy doesn't see the field to Buffalo. And Todd Bowles is saying all the right things where he's like, everybody's available on Thursday. Listen, you clown, not everybody's available because some of these guys, you can't afford to get hurt. This awful roster will get 10 times worse if you risk some injuries to some of these people. So before we even go into that topic, Joe, Claiborne can go nowhere near the field, and this was the biggest concern when we signed him.
Yeah, it was an absolute concern. This is something that's, kind of been a consistent thing throughout his career is, often just the injury bug just bites him, different places. Look at this situation. I was like, look, if Todd Bowles has any type of brain in his head, he would leave this guy on the sidelines until week 1. There's no reason to put him out there. There's no reason to play him. There's no reason for this guy, to wind up either aggravating the injury or getting another injury, in this next preseason game. Let this guy sit until Buffalo and just let him, heal up. It just makes total sense. But it is Todd Bowles. He does a lot of things that don't make sense.
Yeah, he does. Oh, don't worry. His general manager is right next to him, and we'll make sure that we just reiterate some of the things that Mike Maccagnan's done over his last couple of years going into his third season. And he's not going to get off so easy. And finally, everybody's starting to catch on as the media started ripping him all, last 2 days. But just keeping towards what we're talking about, report today where the Jets they're shopping Matt Forte. And the first thing you think, when you hear the Jets are shopping, that means Mike Maccagnan's either going to cut the guy or he's going to trade him for like a 2019 7th-round pick. I have no faith in this. He'll screw this up somehow. The only way the Jets are going to trade Forte, Joe, is probably got to eat like $1.5 million of his salary at least. I think at least. And then you're going to get, 6th-round pick? You're not getting nothing for him, man.
Yeah. You know what blew my mind about this when I'm hearing about it is, why didn't you do this before the draft? You walked into you walked into a draft that was laced with running back talent. One of the best, and people, a lot of scouts said it as well, one of the best deep running back classes that, almost there's ever been almost. So why would you wait until now to get rid of Matt Forte? Why would you wait till now to see if you can get something for this guy when you could have did it before the draft and maybe took that value or whatever you got for him and applied it and got yourself a better running back than maybe even McGuire? We talked about it time and time again. A lot of callers called in. They were looking for us to get Dalvin Cook, and we said, look, we don't want to go early with the back, but if he's still sitting there, later on in the draft, hey, look at him. That was a guy that we could have looked at as well going into that draft. There were other backs that were later on in that draft too that we could have taken. I don't understand what exactly he's doing now or why moves are being made so late after the draft, why he's just now looking to trade guys like Marcus Williams. I'm starting to hear about Sheldon Richardson being back out on the market again. That's a guy that he absolutely made total mistake with not getting rid of him earlier. All these moves being made late don't make sense, and it's just not a proper way to GM a football team.
No, and for all our new listeners or people that are just kind of joining us, we've been saying this since February. Well, this is nothing new. The things we're talking about now we're more in the I told you so mode. This is exactly what we're doing. And that's not being arrogant, Joe. This is being factual. We first guessed all of this stuff. And Maccagnan's list of mishandling goes back from Fitzpatrick, Moe, Sheldon, even signing Forte. I mean, he's done so many things wrong that the list is going to Decker, Harris, all these things that are blowing up in his face, and everybody's blaming Bowles. Listen, Bowles had his awful year last year. Maccagnan, for his first 2 years, he's far from invincible. He's making mistakes everywhere. So now it's like you have Forte here, Joe. You're not going to get nothing for him. And like you said, then you get rid of him. So you're saying, okay, now we're going to go with Powell as your lead guy. You have McGuire. For some reason, this team is sold on Marcus Murphy. I have absolutely no idea. But Romar Morris is a better player, but that's another story. I just don't get it. And then we come to Sheldon, which is, sure, let's get that story out there and piss him off that they're shopping him. And here's the deal, Joe. As we predicted, Sheldon was unblockable against the New York Giants. Unblockable. He was arguably one of the best players on the field. And here we are on Twitter. Here we are. We got to find a way to keep Sheldon. We got to pay Sheldon. We got to keep Sheldon. All this nonsense. as we predicted, Joe, because we knew this was going to happen. And now what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
So do the Jets try to trade him now before the season when he's healthy, hungry, and ready to go? Do you let it play out to the trade deadline? Or or how do you even handle this? For me, I trade him now because now his value is high. As the season starts, he gets reps, the risk of injuries there, everything else. I mean, how do you handle Sheldon right now?
I think you look at the value of what you can get for him, and I think if anybody offers you more than a third round, you get rid of him now. Get rid of him right now, as soon as possible. If somebody's either willing to give you a second or a third, get him out of here. Because like you said, as the season progresses, as it continues, the risk of injury becomes there. Maybe he's, gets upset and doesn't play as hard. We've seen that in the past with Sheldon where, just his absolute effort on the field was a question. All those things will come into play the closer you get. And again, with these reports leaking, that may, also impact, his attitude. You've got to get him out of here as soon as possible. So get the job done now. But this is something that we talked about last season. Like you said, you brought up, look, there were teams offering, a second-round pick for this guy, and Maccagnan turned it down because it wasn't the first. He was actually holding out for a first-round pick for Sheldon Richardson with all of the other issues that he has. That's ridiculous. He should have been moved a long time ago. But you've got to get him out of here now because you know for a fact that there's no way you can trust this guy, giving him a long-term deal, especially giving him big-time money with the whole total package of what he is. Get rid of him as soon as possible. Make him somebody else's problem.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Everybody, and it's so funny. I knew this was going to happen. He was an unblockable force. Everybody's like, we got to find a way to keep him. Let's just forget about his off-the-field issues. Let's forget about his contract demands. Let's forget about all that. Let's just say give him the money. And you can't do it. He's been mishandled for a year now. So now you're in this boat, and it's like, man, you just know Maccagnan's going to screw this up. I have zero faith in him because that's what he's earned from me. We talk about accountability on this. I'm holding Mike Maccagnan accountable. I don't trust him with anything at this point. I trust him with nothing. I don't trust him with Sheldon. I don't trust him with Forte. Based on the way he handled Decker and Harris, I don't trust him with anything. So here we are with this, Joe. You don't know what he's going to do with that. And it's just like, all right, we're going to go into the season now, and now you have roster cuts coming up. And you look at we'll go into the game next, but we look at the wide receiver position. And it's like, all right, for me, I honestly don't know why the Jets don't start Robbie Anderson or Darius Stewart and Chad Hansen and move on. They play these games with wide receiver, and it makes no sense. Mm-hmm. Like, Kenbrell Tompkins is nothing. He's a guy. It's like, I don't understand why we keep some of these guys around that we do, but it's like he's like unreliable. If we have nothing else, we'll bring him back. I don't understand how the Jets are handling the wide receiver position. And for me, if one of these guys, if somebody becomes available as a free agent, we have to sign him because we need a veteran guy that actually run routes. But the wide receiver position is a mess. I honestly think it's a mess.
We need a veteran guy to run routes. We just released a guy in Decker. That was a veteran guy that could have ran routes. I mean,
ridiculous.
It is. It's absolutely a mess. I look at this situation and I say, wow. You said really the guys that have really shown up, really play hard, really flash consistently. Has been Robbie Anderson. That's a guy that we've seen. Thank goodness, a diamond in the rough, a guy that is polished. He's coming into the second year. We're looking for big things out of him. Stewart really had a solid game as well. He really impressed me. He's a yak monster. So I expect him to be there. And I would like to see Chad Hansen out on that field as well. But after that, dude, like you said, there's question marks. Kenbrell Tompkins is a guy I think that is just a guy like you said he is. But I think, he's made some key catches for us in the past before we let him go, before that, issue in Buffalo where he dropped that football. But he's a guy I guess you can, keep as a fourth-stringer guy. But, the handling of Sharon Peak doesn't make much sense to me. This is a guy that we were looking to really take the next step forward coming in this year, and he's been, not giving many snaps, and then he's on the field and off the field when I feel like he should get more snaps. Jalen Marshall, there's still question marks there with him. There's so many question marks with the guy. Even Chris Harper, who had a couple solid games, then he started to see next to nothing until late in the game. So, dude, there's a lot of questions at this wide receiver position, but it's going to be really wild to see who actually makes the roster. Even a guy like Frankie Hammond, I mean, he's been so inconsistent up and down, not just as a wide receiver, but also as a kick returner, punt returner. I mean, this guy's fumbling, from time to time here just in the preseason. It's a mess.
Yeah, And I still don't get it. You have Frankie Hammond fumbling, Marcus Murphy's nothing special, and Romar Morris is sitting there picking his ass for no goddamn reason. Dude, I mean, just give the guy a chance. If you're supposed to be having competition, give the kid a chance. We've already seen what these other guys are doing, and it's nothing impressive. So, and you look at the offense, and we'll go to the offensive line next. But you have the wide receivers are a mess. So the good chance you're going to have Robbie Anderson, a second-year player, 2 rookies starting. You look at tight end. Safarian Jenkins is out 2 games, and Jordan Leggett's been hurt. So okay. So you have some issues at wide receiver. Now you have issues at tight end. Your running backs are okay, and then you go to the good old offensive line, which is a goddamn turnstile. Joe, this may be one of the worst offensive lines we've had in 10 years. This is terrible, and it falls square. And people want to blame, the coaching and all this. Listen, if it looks like a skunk and smells like a skunk, it's a skunk. This is the talent that Mike Maccagnan brought to this team, and it's just not good. He's taking chances. He's been bargaining basement shopping. He's doing all this nonsense at one of the most crucial positions on the team, and now we're paying for it. So I don't understand how you're having a rebuild season when your quarterback's running for his life. The running backs are fighting for handoffs to the linebackers. I really don't understand how you're supposed to be doing anything. Talking about having your hands tied, Joe, this offensive line is going to cripple the coaching staff. It's going to cripple the quarterback. We're going to need 2 more quarterbacks because all 3 of these guys are going to get hurt. Dude, this offensive line is a bona fide mess, and Mike Maccagnan is 1,000% to blame for it.
He absolutely is. And this is something I've been talking about since he's been here. And this is one of the reasons why when we go into the quarterback position, especially when we talk about these young quarterbacks, that I think that Mike Maccagnan has made this a non-conducive place to mature a young quarterback. And this is one of the reasons I was going to bring up. Look, his dealings with the offensive line has been atrocious. He's criminally just absolutely mishandled it. If you even go back to the time when Fitz was brought back, one of my reasons why I did not want Ryan Fitzpatrick to be re-signed and be given $12 million was because I literally saw the future for this offensive line fall apart if we did not invest in it that year. And everything that I said is coming true. The fact that we, our left tackle is an issue. Our right tackle, he went and picked up a low-level draft pick in Shell, who I said, hey, look, I don't know if this kid is the answer or not, but there needs to be a solid quality offensive lineman brought in to compete with him. Nothing. Now this kid is absolutely out there getting abused, and we saw that in the Giants game. Just getting exposed. Every single game he's been beat for something. And I'm telling you, the quarterbacks are taking big hits. You look at guys like Wesley Johnson. Wesley Johnson got manhandled in that Giants game. It was like the ghost of Christmas past because guess who was doing the manhandling? It was Snacks. Snacks was in the backfield all night long. Hack and Snacks were meeting left and right after every single play, and it was just ridiculous. This offensive line is an issue, and it's going to continue to be an issue because I don't think Mike Maccagnan knows how to properly address it. If you look at some of his drafts, if you go back to 2015 draft, James Harrison was the guy that he brought in. He cut him the next year. You go back to the next draft, you look at when he drafted Shell. That was later on in the late rounds. There were other linemen that were available in those drafts that literally were falling in our laps, guys like Cody Whitehair, in the same draft that he drafted Christian Hackenberg instead of drafting Cody. That was a guy that ended up being a Pro Bowl lineman that was literally sitting right there that I was screaming for. There were other linemen in other drafts that he decided to pass on as well. Free agency, you gave Fitz that $12 million instead of going into that free agency that had offensive linemen there that could have solved a lot of our problems that we're having now. So when you don't invest in this position group, one of the most important position groups in all of the team, right? When you're not investing on fixing what's going on in the trenches, then everything else is going to struggle. Your offense is not going to produce if you got a quarterback that's got guys in his face or he's on his butt all night long. You're not going to be able to run the football when you're trying to hand it off, and you got defensive linemen, ends in particular, that are right there when they're trying to hand it off. There's no way for you to properly conduct an offense with so much pressure in your face because your offensive line is absolutely just imploding. It's absolutely ridiculous, but every single one of these things falls in the lap of Mike Maccagnan because he's done nothing but roll the dice at positions on the offensive line.
No, it's true. And again, this is not us saying we just found this out now. Our whole entire offseason, throughout the draft process, before the draft process, throughout free agency, we were like, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. They re-signed Brian Winters, like, all right, cool. But people were like, well, Brandon Shell played 3 games and he looked excellent. And then Pro Football Focus sends out some stupid stat He's one of the best right tackles in football. All this other nonsense.
Yep.
Listen, I only know what my eyes see. In my eyes see, Brandon Shell was getting blown right past him. You know, and to be honest, Brian Winters struggled a little bit too. But it's like when you're the problem with Brian Winters is when you have a guy to the right of you playing like garbage and a guy to the left you playing like garbage, you're stuck in the middle. You don't know what to do. Like, which guy do I help? They're both struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, same thing with James Carpenter. James Carpenter's sitting there like, all right, my center can't block and my left tackle can't block. Now, let's be honest. Kelvin Beachum has some work to do too. Kelvin Beachum's no prize. So it's like, listen, what is going on here? Like, at some point you got to say, listen, that's fine, but have a plan and have your building blocks for your offensive line. Right now, it's a mishmash. And it hurts everybody. You want to develop your wide receivers? Well, guess what? They need time to run their routes to get the ball. You want to develop a quarterback? They need time to throw the ball. You want to develop an offense? You need an offensive line. So now you have an offensive line that's garbage. You have receivers that are completely just unproven, unknown. There's going to be a learning curve. Your tight end is suspended 2 games. Jordan Leggett's hurt. He comes back. He's a rookie. And you have your quarterback. Hackenberg's a waste of time. Petty's hurt. And then you have McCown, who hasn't played in 2 games, hasn't been practicing. Dude, this is a bona fide disaster. The Jets are redefining dumpster fire on offense. This could be historically one of the worst offenses we've ever watched in the history of Jet fans, and it falls on Maccagnan. We can't even blame Bowles for half of this, Joe, because you know what? How do you even handle this? If you have no line and you have guys that can't get open, what do you want him to do? How do you even handle this?